Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. My younger sister Sarah was driving when she shouldn't have been, and we ended up in a crash. I was in the car with her and I was really badly hurt. I was close to dying, and my mom, whose name is Dr. Emily, is a super famous doctor, but she wouldn't help me. Instead, she went straight to Sarah, who just had a little scratch on her knee. When I knew I didn't have much time left, I asked if I could see my mom one more time, but she was annoyed and said no. She said something like, "If Michael's going to die, he should just do it quickly. He shouldn't try to get attention with these silly games." She actually believed I was faking it, but then when she finally saw that I was really gone, she changed completely. She held my body all night and cried, saying she was so sorry. The next thing I knew, I opened my eyes, but I wasn't in my body anymore. I was in a hospital room, and it felt like my soul had floated out of me. I automatically called out for my mom. Before I could even see who was with her, I heard Sarah's voice, all choked up. Sarah's my little sister. I had no idea what kind of act she was putting on this time. She was sitting in a wheelchair with tears all over her face. "Mom," she said, "it's not Michael's fault. It's all my fault. I should have stopped her." When Sarah mentioned me, my mom, who usually seemed so kind, suddenly looked really cold. "Don't worry," she said to Sarah. "Mom will make sure that Jessica pays for what she did, driving when she shouldn't and causing you all this trouble. She must not want to live anymore." I was so mad at Sarah's lies. I rushed over to her, wanting to ask her why she was blaming me. She was the one driving dangerously. But then I looked in the window and didn't see my reflection. I saw my hands and they were see-through. That's when I understood I was a ghost. I never had much power in my family when I was alive, and now that I was dead, nobody cared about me even more. "But my leg is hurt," Sarah cried. "What about the dance competition next week? Now all that practice is wasted." I had secretly signed up for that dance competition too. I wanted to do something that would finally make my mom proud, to make her see me as more than just a disappointment. But now that chance was gone forever. Mom had spent a lot of money on Sarah, trying to make her into this perfect, elegant young lady since she was little. The problem was Sarah just wasn't into it. She still acted like a troublemaker, and now she was blaming me for not being able to do well in the dance competition. Mom, who had been so excited about the competition, was really angry now, and she started saying bad things about me. "Jessica is just a troublemaker," she said. "She's always been jealous of you, Sarah, and she's been like this ever since she grew up in the countryside. She was afraid you'd win the dance competition. Just wait until I get home. I'll deal with her." In the hospital room, there were other people besides Mom and Sarah. The best doctors that my mom had called, and one of the doctors who had been looking after me carefully stepped forward. Dr. Emily said, "Your older daughter, Jessica, she didn't make it. We tried everything, but we couldn't save her." Mom slammed a cup that was meant for Sarah onto the table. She turned to the doctor, furious. "What's wrong with you today?" she demanded. "Why are you taking that girl's side? You told me to come see her, and now you're saying she's dead? Did Jessica tell you to say that?" The last time I talked to Mom on the phone before I died, she called me a jealous liar. I was barely hanging on when I called, and in the end she just made me feel ashamed. I couldn't understand what I did wrong. I only came back home because my grandma was sick. Why did I have to go through all this? It made people wonder how two daughters in the same family could be treated so differently. The doctor who tried to speak up for me didn't say anything else. My mom could have saved me with her skills, but she told everyone to focus on Sarah instead, so they stopped trying to help me. Once all the doctors left, Mom went back to being the sweet, loving mom she always was to Sarah. She spoke softly to Sarah, encouraging her. "Even if you miss this competition," she said, "there will be others. I know you can do it." Sarah seemed a little annoyed. She never really liked dancing, but with a mom who wanted a star for a daughter, she had to go along with it. To help Sarah feel better after missing the competition, my parents even rented a big house in the countryside so they could all relax. Watching the three of them together, I felt like I didn't even belong. My dad has always been kind of a pushover. He knew Mom favored Sarah, so he didn't even ask why I wasn't there. To him, I was just an extra, someone not really important. He never asked for much, but he also never paid attention to me, even when Sarah bullied me and I asked for his help. Seeing them outside grilling food and taking pictures made my heart hurt. I needed to get away from them, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't go further than about 15 feet. They were loving the countryside with all the fields around, but this was where I grew up. Just over the hill was my grandma's house, but even though we were so close, Dad didn't say anything about visiting Grandma. Mom and Sarah, who never got along with her, definitely wouldn't want to. While I was thinking about all this, Sarah's voice brought me back. "Mom," she said, "is it okay that we didn't bring my sister? What if she gets mad and hates me for it?" Seeing her play these games, I wished I had stood up to her more. As usual, Mom, who always believed Sarah, felt sorry for her seeing her act so worried. "Why would you worry about her?" Mom said. "She almost got you killed. You should be blaming her instead. No matter how Jessica feels about you, you're the only daughter your dad and I have." Even though I had tried to prepare myself, hearing this made me feel the mistake. Realizing they were talking about me, Mom remembered she hadn't heard from me in days. Her special daughter was acting all fragile, so of course, Mom wanted to let out her feelings. When Mom picked up the phone to call me, Sarah secretly gave a little smirk. She called a few times, but I obviously couldn't answer. That made Mom really frustrated. I mean, I never ignored her calls before. She muttered some angry words about me and then sent me some texts. Her messages basically told me to never come home, to forget about them completely. Living in this house felt like being a rat hiding in the shadows. Sarah could always easily get Mom and Dad's love and attention. When I tried to explain things or prove myself, it just seemed like I was making excuses. I remember when I first came home, Grandma and Dad noticed I was flexible and said I had a natural talent for dancing. They wanted to help me develop it. Back then, Mom felt bad for leaving me with Grandma, so she agreed right away. When Sarah found out, she got really jealous, thinking the money for dance classes should be spent on her. She thought I was there to take away her attention. So before Mom could even sign me up, Sarah accused me of pushing her down the stairs. Even though I cried and cried, Mom wouldn't listen to my side of the story. After that, I knew what my life in this family would be like. Sarah would hug Mom, acting all sweet. "Mom, you're the best," she'd say. Mom would love it, smiling and taking pictures of Sarah. Watching all this, I couldn't help but remember living with Grandma. It made me feel sad and bitter. I closed my eyes and thought about the times Grandma and I spent together. So clear it was like I could hear her voice. "Emily, what are you doing here?" I couldn't believe it. Grandma was really standing there. Since I came back, it was the first time I'd seen her. She looked skinnier. I'd wanted to visit, but Mom always said no. Even Grandma told me not to come, to focus on getting used to living with Mom and Dad. But now Grandma seemed a little angry, which was unusual. She usually stayed calm even when she argued with Mom. "And you have the guts to show up here," she said. Dad just looked down, not saying anything. "Sarah got hurt, so we were just taking her out for a break," he said. "My bad," said Grandma. Mom, who never got along with Grandma, saw a chance to let out her anger, especially since I hadn't answered her calls. "And you dare to blame us?" she said. "Do you have any idea what Jessica has done? I should never have let you raise her. You turned her into a mess." Hearing this, Grandma wasn't going to take it. She might let things go for herself, but not when it came to protecting me. "Stop talking nonsense," she said. "Jessica has always been a good girl." Since I got back, I hadn't heard anyone call me Jessica in such a loving way. Really got to me. Sarah, wanting to be the center of attention, showed off her scraped leg, making it look worse with some medicine that made Grandma gasp. "Grandma," Sarah said a few days ago, "Sis was driving when she shouldn't have and we crashed." Grandma shook her head. "No way," she said. "Jessica is allergic to alcohol. She wouldn't do that." Mom just smirked when she heard this. I just called Jessica and she didn't answer. She said clearly she's hiding from her mistakes. "How did you even raise her?" Instead, she got all worked up and grabbed Sarah by the shoulders. "You said your sister crashed too," she said. "Then where is she? Is she hurt?" After everything, my parents didn't seem to care, and Sarah couldn't care less if I was dead. I regretted coming home and leaving the one person who truly loved me, my grandma. Sarah threw herself on the floor, pretending to fall, and started crying loudly. "Grandma, why did you push me?" she wailed. "Are you taking Sis's side?" Mom was really mad now. She started pushing Grandma out, yelling the whole time. "Jessica's tough," she said. Always pretending to be sick to trick me. You said she'd be a dancer. Good thing I didn't let her. She's better off being an actress, always lying." In Mom's rough hands, Grandma fell to the ground. I tried to catch her, but she just went right through me. Seeing her helpless broke my heart. And I hated that I couldn't protect her. Dad tried to help Grandma up, but Sarah clung to him, holding him back. Grandma got to her feet, gave Dad a look full of disappointment, and slowly walked out. "Don't you dare lie," she said. "There's more to this crash. Jessica couldn't have done this. I'm going to find out what really happened." I clenched my fists hard. I can't even imagine what would happen if Grandma found out her precious granddaughter was already gone. She might just faint. I wanted to follow her. I was so worried, but I was stuck beside Mom, unable to move. Sarah, the drama queen, was always reminding Mom about something that supposedly hurt just to get out of school. Mom took her to the hospital so many times. Anytime I did anything like Sarah, Mom would just yell at me and then ground me to help Sarah get better. Mom would make her special soups every day. I never got to taste any of that stuff. Sarah, having a nice meal at the table, got up to get more soup with Mom watching. She slowly walked over to my bedroom door. "Sis," she said, "want some soup? You must be hurting too, right?" But there was no answer. I knew she was just pretending. I could tell she was up to no good. Mom stood by my door, never caring about how I felt. "Why bother with her?" she said. "Just eat it yourself. Giving good soup to her is a waste." Exactly. Mom would never let that soup get anywhere near me. She'd rather feed it to a stray dog than give me a bowl. Mom grabbed the soup from Sarah and paused before going downstairs. Turning back, she shouted at the door. "Think you're so important, huh? Not answering your phone and now hiding in your room? Get out here and do the dishes." I wanted more than anything to come out and explain, to show Sarah's true personality, but my body, it was already cold, seeing no movement in the room. Mom threw the door open, playing deaf. "I'm talking to you," she yelled. Mom and Sarah both froze. The room was empty, with a thin layer of dust on the desk showing no one had been there in a while. Just when I thought Mom realized something had happened to me and would look for me, she said the most heartbreaking thing. "Her wings got strong, didn't they?" she said, wondering where she was off having fun now. Thanks to Sarah's constant lies, Mom saw me as just a lazy girl who loved to party. Sarah jumped in to make it worse. The day of the car accident, she said she was with some guys who weren't supposed to be there. Mom got even angrier, went straight for my drawer and pulled out a box. What was she planning? It was a jade bracelet Grandma gave me. Sarah had seen it once by accident and begged me to give it to her. But since I had just gotten home back then, Mom was still thinking straight and didn't agree until Sarah got something more expensive at the mall. She calmed down, but she never really forgot about it, always trying to get it. Mom handed the box to Sarah. "Take it," she said. "It's payment for Jessica's accident." Sarah couldn't hide her excitement but tried to act calm. "Shouldn't we ask Sis first?" she said. "It's hers." I knew Dad kept a spare bracelet and would give it to her. And I wanted to grab my bracelet back, but I couldn't do anything. I just watched as it ended up on Sarah's wrist. This feeling of being completely helpless crushed the last bit of hope I had inside me. I used to hope Mom would understand, but now I didn't care anymore. Even if she felt sorry, what could that change? The damage was already done. I prayed for God to take me back and let me be reborn soon. Just as Mom was about to take Sarah out for a day of fun, Dad rushed back home looking panicked. "My mom's in trouble," he said. "She's in the hospital. You know people there. Can you come to see if you can help?" Because he rarely got upset, Dad usually didn't ask Mom for help, and seeing Dad so upset, she couldn't refuse. The three of us went to the hospital where Mom worked. Mom went to the nurses' station, asking for information about Grandma. The nurses searched, but they couldn't find her name. A nervous trainee nurse said, "Dr. Emily, are you sure of the name? No records in the system. Is there a mistake?" Mom was getting impatient, spotting her trainee badge, about to snap when Grandma appeared at the end of a hallway. I worriedly checked Grandma's condition, but she seemed okay, not as bad as Dad described. Mom said, "What's this all about? You scared us." Grandma's eyes were red, clearly from crying. "If I hadn't said this," she said, "would you all have come to the hospital?" If Grandma had mentioned my death, Mom wouldn't have believed it, thinking Grandma was working with me to get sympathy. Hearing what Grandma said, Mom scoffed. Now it makes sense where Jessica got her tricks, she said. Grandma couldn't hold back her tears anymore. She broke down crying. Why would I lie to you? She said. I'm an old woman. I don't have energy to waste on this. You all killed my granddaughter. Jessica's lying in the morgue while you're out there eating and playing. Meanwhile, my Jessica's all alone. Mom's coworkers were looking at her with judgment. This embarrassed Mom deeply. She just wanted to get out of there. Fine, she said. We'll go to the morgue right now and see your little act. One of the doctors, who knew how badly I was hurt, tried to stop her, but one look from Mom silenced her. At that moment, her pride mattered most, revealing her selfishness. As we entered the morgue, everyone felt a chill from the cold air. An attendant slowly pulled out a stretcher with my body covered in a white sheet. Oh, you two really put on a show, Mom sighed. What tricks did you use to get the hospital staff to play along with your charade? Mama, who was used to seeing dead bodies, casually pulled back the white sheet, but in the next second she screamed and sat on the ground. My face, covered in blood, was right there in front of her. Even though I knew how bad I looked, seeing it again made my heart pound with fear. On the day of the accident, I was just relaxing at home. But then Sarah called and said I had to come pick her up. I didn't understand it. Sarah usually didn't care if I was around or not. She didn't want her friends to see me or even admit she had a sister. It was obviously some kind of trap, so I said no. But she threatened me, saying that if I didn't come, she'd keep calling Grandma and keep her up all night. Grandma hardly gets any sleep as it is. I figured it was just a ride and nothing bad would happen, so I went to the place Sarah told me to go. It was a karaoke room with a bunch of Sarah's usual friends. As soon as I walked in, Sarah turned to a guy and said, "So do you like her? You said if I brought a girl here, you'd pay for everything." I was used to Sarah using me like this. She never treated me like a real person. Sarah said if I just had a drink with the guy, she'd leave. Then she changed it to staying until 2 a.m. and she'd talk to Mom about letting Grandma live with me. I hesitated, but for Grandma's sake, it seemed worth trying. I'm allergic to alcohol, but I drank it anyway and I passed out. The last thing I remember was Sarah pinching my arm really hard and saying I was boring. She had me carried to a car and insisted on driving, even though her friends told her not to. I tried to wake up, but the alcohol kept me out. When I finally woke up, I was barely alive, lying in a hospital bed. I wanted Sarah to keep her promise and for Mom to know everything. Grandma's voice brought me back to the present. She was crying, asking Mom what had happened. Everything was getting out of Mom's control. She was starting to panic. I didn't think she'd actually die, she said. She remembered the last call I made to her, the one she ignored. So cruel. Sarah knew I'd die without help, so seeing my body, she didn't shock her. She was secretly happy she'd be the only daughter now, but she couldn't let anyone see how happy she was. Sarah quickly changed, starting to cry and blaming herself. "It's not Mom's fault," she said. "It's mine. I should have stopped her from driving after having drinks." To make it more believable, she kneeled down and slapped herself. When she raised her hand, Grandma noticed my jade bracelet on Sarah's wrist. "Why is that bracelet on your wrist?" Grandma asked. "I gave it to your sister." Grandma grabbed her wrist angrily. Sarah's wrist turned red right away, and she kept slapping herself, looking like she was in a lot of pain. Mom, terrified, rushed to stop Sarah from hurting herself. Sarah had always been good at making Mom feel sorry for her. Growing up with our parents, even though Dad wasn't too strict, he was still worried about Sarah. "Mom, stop it," he said. "What's wrong? If Sarah has the bracelet, she's your granddaughter too, and Jessica's gone now. We should focus on her funeral, not fighting like this." I rarely saw Dad this upset, and it was all because of Sarah. Seeing them both defending her, Grandma couldn't do anything to get justice for me. In that moment, I saw myself and Grandma always being ignored because of the three of them. Dad and Mom didn't want to talk about what happened to me anymore. They gave Grandma some money to take care of my funeral. They only showed up to be polite, crying a few fake tears for the relatives and friends. The day of the dance competition came closer. Sarah had forgotten all about it, but Mom brought it up. "Sarah," she said, "your leg's all better now. Why don't we give it a try?" Sarah instantly pouted. She had no interest in the competition. Plus, Mom didn't know she hadn't been practicing. She'd be in big trouble. Sarah tried every excuse, but Mom was determined to have her enter the competition. She was motivated because a coworker's daughter had won a national violin contest. Sarah was the same age but hadn't done anything special in dance. Not wanting to look bad in front of her coworkers, Mom insisted she participate in the competition. Sarah was getting ready backstage. Mom dressed up nicely and sat in the audience, feeling sure Sarah would do great. She'd even started writing a speech for her to give when she won. The night before, watching from beside Mom, I remembered I could have been on that stage showing off my own talent. Now I had no chance. I'd heard that this year's judge was a famous dance teacher. A chance to impress her and become her student had everyone trying their best. Everyone except Sarah, who was still trying to get out of it. Nearby, a group of girls around my age were chatting. I recognized a few of them. "Did you know Sarah's here for the competition too?" one said. Hearing Sarah's name, Mom paid attention. She thought they were all Sarah's friends and was about to join the conversation, but each word they said shocked her more and more. She's barely good enough and is entering a competition. At this level, she's really overconfident. Another girl said if Sarah's mom knew she spent the dance class money on a bag, she'd be furious. I heard her sister was also in the competition, a third girl added. Mom thought that was strange. Either you're talented or you know the right people to join a competition like this. How did I even get in? Honestly, when I sent the video to the organizers, it was just a long shot. I didn't think I'd be accepted. Her sister, wasn't she the one Sarah called to the karaoke place that night? I suddenly realized why the girl looked familiar. They were the same people in the room that night. Yeah, I think her name was Jessica. She passed out from an allergy after drinking and got carried out to a car. Didn't Sarah have a car accident that night? Is her sister okay? Otherwise, Sarah wouldn't be at this competition. The accident couldn't have been too serious. Just a few moments ago, Mom looked happy and bright, but her makeup now seemed pale. She turned to the girl next to her. "Are you talking about contestant number 8, Sarah?" she asked. "Yeah, do you know her?" the girl replied. Mom quickly left the audience, called the hospital, and asked a doctor for Jessica's medical records. Soon they arrived. Multiple organ injuries from a car crash and an allergic reaction. Turns out the allergy rumors were true. Mom's hands began to shake. A lot of things seemed unclear, like a fog she couldn't see through. She wanted the truth but didn't know where to start because she didn't know me well. Just then, a figure peeked out from the backstage door. Sarah, in her dance costume, was sneaking out to take a call. "Stop calling me," she said. "I'm about to go on stage. It'll be a disaster if anyone finds out. Don't tell my mom I was driving that night. I'll send you the money now." While Mom heard everything, she had to face reality. The Sarah she believed was such a good girl was at the center of all the problems. Mom's heart ached like it was stabbed with a needle. Trying not to show how upset she was, she returned to her seat as Sarah's turn came up. Sarah, having trained in dance since she was young, completed her routine, but in this competition, her performance wasn't anything special. The girls nearby made some mean comments about Sarah during her dance. Mom's heart hurt wondering how her daughter, whom she put so much effort into, became so average. Then the host announced the next contestant, Jessica. Hearing my name shocked Mom, Sarah, and me. No one knew that I was already gone. It was a missed chance. Sarah, who just finished her turn, rushed to the stage. "Didn't I say my sister's dead?" she yelled. "Why call her name?" From across the judges' table, Wendy stood up. Everyone wanted to be her student. Wendy pointed towards the big screen. On it played a video of a girl dancing smoothly with natural talent. It was my submission video. Wendy spoke to the crowd. "I agreed to judge this event just to. I wanted to see your sister and take her as my student," she said. "I've just learned that she died in a car accident a few days ago. She was a very talented dancer. It's a great loss. I wanted to show this video to remember her." Sarah looked foolish on stage. Her performance was nothing compared to the video. The fact that they were sisters made it even worse. I glanced at Mom, whose expression was full of painful awkwardness. She realized she had put her faith in the wrong person. On the way home, Sarah's attempts to talk were ignored by Mom. Her attitude was cold. At the house, Sarah couldn't handle Mom's sudden coldness, having been spoiled by her. She tried her usual trick, hugging her arm and pouting. "Mom," she said, "are you mad because I didn't do well in the competition? If it wasn't for the accident caused by my sister, I would have done better." Not knowing Mom knew everything, Sarah's words seemed more and more ridiculous. Mom sighed deeply, full of disappointment towards Sarah, a look that stung like a needle. "Do you think my sister is better than me?" Sarah continued. "If she hadn't died, she would have been the one you wanted to teach." Finally tired of Sarah's talk about her, Mom snapped. She slapped Sarah, catching her off guard. Sarah fell to the floor just as Dad returned from work and asked what was happening. "Do you know what your daughter's been up to?" Mom revealed. Sarah was driving, not Jessica. Sarah was shocked, not anticipating the exposure of the accident story. Memories of a boy calling flashed in her mind. Did he expose her? Her swollen face was wet with tears, a pitiful sight. She thought Mom had no proof, so she protested. "Mom, I couldn't have driven after drinking. I've never touched alcohol." Mom had no faith left. She brought out 2 photos. One of Sarah toasting at the karaoke place, another from traffic cameras showing Sarah at the wheel. You could barely see, but even from the blurry picture, it was clear I was slumped in the passenger seat, unconscious. Mom then showed messages from the dance teacher proving Sarah skipped a year of classes. Faced with clear evidence, Sarah was speechless, knowing she was caught. "You brought Jessica back from the countryside," she cried. "You promised you'd always love me, but now she's back, stealing my affection." Mom was overwhelmed, clutching her chest. "Ask yourself when I've ever been unfair to you," she said. "Even with your sister back, my love for you never changed. Whatever you wanted, I gave you if I could. And you? You drank and drove, killing her." Sarah started laughing manically. "No, it's not true. Mom, you killed her. You pushed me into dance I hated, and with her skills you'd have taken everything from me. If she lived, I'd have nothing." Mom replied, "You're right. I must seek my own reconciliation with her. The police are on their way." "Oh, up to your mistake." Realizing the police were coming, Sarah couldn't believe it. She tried to run away, but the officers were already at the door. As the police car's sirens faded away, I knew Sarah would face justice. Turning back, I noticed Mom was gone. From outside came a scream. I rushed to the open window where I saw Mom lying in a pool of blood. Knowing those who hurt me faced consequences didn't bring the happiness I thought it would. I'd been through too much. Maybe I was to let go of the painful past. All I wish for is to find Grandma in the next life and treat her the way she deserves.